Welcome to Rubber Bellissimo at the Movies. This is a YouTube channel where we explore all things cinema. Folks, it's that time of year, the holiday season, and if you celebrate Christmas, people are watching Christmas movies. And I've always wondered, what makes a Christmas movie? Is it just simply that the film takes place during the Christmas season? And so the whole thing happens during the holidays, like something like Home Alone or Elf? Is it, or is it that it has a certain section in it that's Christmas, takes place during Christmas, and which really makes more of an emotional impact to the characters, which happens in life when you think about it. You're having a good bad time and you're thinking, oh my God, how did this happen during the holidays? Or a good time, and oh, this is going to really make my Christmas, So, or is it something about Christmas that changes the characters? I guess it's really up to you. What it makes a Christmas film. I know it's always fun every year. People, is Die Hard a Christmas movie? Is Batman Returns a Christmas movie? Is Eyes Wide Shut a Christmas movie? It's always fun to explore that. But I always prefer more of the melancholy kind of Christmas films that I would consider Christmas films, because it's a challenging season. I've always loved Christmas since I was a kid. But as I got older and, became a father, I started to see the other side, the challenge of giving my son a great Christmas. Of course, the pressure to see family, to buy gifts, and it can be really hard. And then you have people also who are out there who are alone, and it's hard for them to see people with family celebrating together, or maybe they lost a loved one recently, and things like that. So it's it can be a very, very, very hard time. And so I picked 4 movies that I felt captured Christmas, the flip, both sides, the good and the bad. Or maybe just the bad, but these are all masterpieces in my view. So I picked 4. I know people have to do top 5, top 10, but I'm taking the influence from Letterboxd, because they do a lot of last 4 watched on the app, and they've been interviewing all these various people, like what are your 4 favorites? So favorite movies. So I like 4. So up first, My Uncle Antoine. This is a Canadian masterpiece. It's considered one of the greatest Canadian films of all time. The filmmaker and film historian, I was talking to him recently, Daniel Kremer, and he loves My Uncle Antoine, and he said it's Canada's Kane, as in Citizen Kane, of course, which is considered one of the greatest films. I'd have to agree with him. It is a stunning film. I'll read a quick synopsis. This is from IMDb. Set in cold, rural Quebec at Christmas time, we follow the coming of age of a young boy and the life of his family, which owns the town's general store and undertaking business. This was directed by Claude Jutra. He wrote the screenplay with Clément Perron. It was actually based on Clément's life, the story, and it starred Jacques Gagnon, Lynn Champagne, and Jean Duceppe. Hope I have these French names somewhat pronounced correctly. It's a masterpiece. I only first saw it a few years ago in the early in 2021, and at first I thought, I'm like, oh, nothing's really happening in this film, and then it just this real burst of feeling towards the end, and then you start to connect a lot of things that you saw earlier in the film about these characters. Reminds me of like Ozu, the Ozu or Bresson, it's very slow, and it's really about these people, and it all takes place on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, and then going into Boxing Day on the 26th. And people are celebrating Christmas, and there's joyous moments, but then there's these harsh, really sad moments. For example, Benoit, who's the main character, he lives with his uncle and aunt. It's not clear whether he's an orphan or not. Whereas this other young girl, Carmen, who lives there, she is an orphan, and she works at the store, and her father shows up at the party, and he doesn't even say anything to her. He's just there for her paycheck. And Uncle Antoine insists that she gets $5 of the check, and the father protests because he wants the whole check. And Antoine says, that's the way it is, too bad, So, again, here you are on Christmas. He doesn't even wish her a Merry Christmas. So those kind of moments, they really, really, really hit hard. And the film is really captures what it's like when you start to see your parents, in this case, uncle and aunt, but they're essentially, Benoit's parents. When you start to see them as human beings with their own set of problems or flaws. And in for a lot of the film, he only sees their good qualities. But towards the end of the film, when suddenly there's that great scene when because Antoine is a undertaker in the countryside here in Quebec, and they go to get this body of this 15-year-old boy who died on Christmas morning, and he gets drunk at this family's house, and then he passes out on the way back, and the body that they put in a coffin falls off the sled. They're going by horse and buggy. We don't know exactly what year the film takes place. All we know is that it says at the beginning it's just from a long time ago. So I don't know if it's like 30s or 40s, but they're also in the country, so there's it's interesting that they're still using horse and buggy. I guess in Quebec that was maybe still common even in the 30s or 40s at that time. And as they go to try to get the body back, he suddenly breaks down in front of Benoit and says that he hates the country, that he's afraid of dead bodies, that his wife never gave him a child, and that he's terribly unhappy with his life, and he has this drinking problem, as we know. And I was so shocked that Benoit reacted actually with anger, and he just calls him a drunk. And I think it's because he was really startled to learn that his uncle, who he loved, this great man, has this side of him that is, these problems and flaws that are hard to hear. And even when he goes to the family's house, he's insensitive to the mother, who's deeply upset, and he offers compassion, but he's so casual about everything. And I think it's because he's been desensitized to these occasions happening, and it cuts to a POV shot of Benoit looking at his uncle eating, and he's eating like a pig. And you see that Benoit's thinking, what is he doing, And of course, as he gets back, he sees his aunt having an affair with this other character, Fernand, who Claude Jutra plays. He's also in the film, and he catches them, they're cuddling after having sex, right? So the film, it's these moments, it's like of coming of age where suddenly you're seeing things for the first time, and that the way in which you looked at the world is maybe not the whole truth. There's always something under the rug, and then little by little, as we get older, we see these things. But the fact that it takes place at Christmas just makes it harder to see, harder to see these things, particularly. Another scene where because there's a lot of the people in this community work in the mines, and the boss comes around with his horse and buggy, and he's just throwing Christmas stockings like as if he's feeding his dog on everybody's front porch. And someone comments, "Oh, we didn't get a Christmas bonus this year," and cutting to the various faces of people looking really helpless. So it has those moments of social consciousness that these people are being exploited, and this is their Christmas bonus. Just people in America, Canada, all over the world are really struggling financially right now. So I'm sure where people see a scene like that and they can really relate to greed and the corruption of corporations are insane nowadays, and it has been for a long time, but seems to get worse and worse. So it's a wonderful film, and if you're in Canada, you can see it for free on the National Film Board's streamer. Yeah, as a Canadian taxpayers, we could see it for free. After that, I'll go to one that is on all of our lists. This is something that people watch every single year. It's one of my favorite movies. It's a Wonderful Life, of course, which is directed by Frank Capra. And it starred Jimmy Stewart, Donna Reed, Lionel Barrymore. It was written by Albert Hackett, Francis Goodrich, and Frank Capra is also credited on the screenplay. And again, here's another film that only really the last part of it is, which, obviously has a strong influence from A Christmas Carol, is the part of it that's Christmas. But I think it has those images are so strong of Jimmy Stewart screaming in the streets, "Merry Christmas to everyone," that, you can't help but call this a Christmas film. And one could even say, as George is in trouble, the $8,000 goes missing from the building and loan that, of course, we know Potter has, and that he stole and from his Uncle Billy. And so we know that he's in deep trouble, and so he's thinking of suicide, and of course, as he goes through this experience of what would life be like if he had never been born, he comes to really be so appreciative of the fact that he's just alive. And so so you could say that the fact that everybody who finds out about this debt that he now is going to have to pay, and if he has to go to jail for fraud, if they find that the money's missing, I mean, he's in serious trouble. You could say that that's a Christmas, Christmas generosity that everybody pitches in to help him. This is the season of giving, as they say. But this film is a perfect film in my view, and it's so relatable because George Bailey is this guy who had these dreams, which he couldn't pursue, and also couldn't, he maybe could have, but it would have been very hard to have done so under the circumstances. The building and loan would have been gone. Potter would have had more power in their community, and more and more people would have struggled as a result of that. And so he couldn't pursue his dreams. And we all can relate to, as young people, really wanting, we see our futures ahead of us. Everything looks bright, just like George says, I'm going to, get the moon with a lasso and pull it in. He's this huge dreamer, and they don't come true. But then on the flip side, there are things in our life that maybe we really love, like having a family, being married, having friends. And so this is a great reminder that, it's not to say that his problems are solved at the end, but he is at least, some of them are solved, but he is at least much more aware of the fact that people in his community love him, and that he's a great person, that he's done amazing things, because he looks at himself as a complete loser, because he cannot let go of the fact that he didn't get to pursue his dreams of architecture. And I think we can all relate to that. We all have pain of not being able to do certain things, or certain things didn't work out, or they didn't work out as we had hoped. But we have things that we can really appreciate. But again, they do not just make it like all his problems are solved and everything's happy. It seems that way, but he still has to go and deal with Potter, and that those problems are not gone, But his awareness of him, of who he is and how people feel about him, and also what he has, things that he does have, are what come to the forefront. So it's a great message for us to reflect and think, life is hard, but hey, I've got a roof over my head. Luck for those of us who are lucky to have a roof over our head. I have shelter. I have shoes. I have clothes. I have enough to pay the rent or whatever. I have enough to pay my bills or what have you. I'm not saying everybody has all of those things, but I'm saying that we all have something, even if it's just the happiness coming from drinking a cup of coffee, or seeing our kids after school, or hugging our wife or husband in the morning. there's we can find some sort of happiness every single day. So that's a great message. And there's a similar message when A Tree Grows in Brooklyn, which is my next pick, which has a devastating Christmas scene. This was released in 1945. It was adapted from the book by Betty Smith. The screenplay was by Frank Davis and Tess Schlesinger. I'm thinking John Schlesinger. Schlesinger, I hope I have that right. This is directed by Elia Kazan, his debut feature. And I'll read a short plot. Encouraged by her idealistic, if luckless father, a bright and imaginative young woman comes of age in a Brooklyn tenement during the early 1900s. Starred Dorothy McGuire, Peggy Ann Garner, Joan Blondell, and as well as James Dunn. Lloyd Nolan is also in it. I love this film. It's a perfect film. The first time I saw it, I was literally bawling my eyes out. I remember watching it with my parents, and they thought something was wrong with me. I'm sensitive. What can I say? But I've seen it a couple of times since then, and it always really, really gets me. But it has similarities with It's a Wonderful Life, because who James Dunn plays, Johnny Nolan, he's a struggling singer, and he's a dreamer, and he deep down knows that things have not panned out for him, but he cannot let them go, and he's still finding work as a singer, but as a singing waiter. But what he really wants to do is be a big singer, a well-known singer in Manhattan. And so they're living in Brooklyn in poverty. You got two kids. His wife's a cleaning woman. She makes most of the money, and she's been hardened by life. I mean, at one point she loved that he was this dreamer with this active imagination. But you can understand when you're struggling and you're waiting for your husband's dreams to come true, that you're going to become resentful and you're going to look at life in a more cynical way. And the Christmas, it's hit so hard, because we go from this joyful moment. They get a Christmas tree for free. They bring it home. It's beautiful snow outside. They exchange gifts. But of course, the secret is that Katie Nolan, who Dorothy McGuire plays, is pregnant with their third child. And so she tells him, Johnny, on Christmas night, I'm pregnant. And he's happy, but he's not even thinking, how are they going to afford it? She's more practical. So she's like, well, we're going to have to take Francie out of school. And he knows how much school means to Francie. She has dreams of being a writer. She loves books. She loves Shakespeare. And so he doesn't want that to happen. And it's so devastating, and he gets so desperate that he thinks, I'm going to have to go look for a job so this doesn't have to happen to my daughter. And here we are, the dead of night in Christmas. And as he leaves his Brooklyn tenement, it's dark in the hallways, but you hear Christmas carolers in the background. So the contrast between those two things is just it breaks my heart. And of course, as we know, he dies, of pneumonia. And, he had such a close relationship with Francie, and those moments of her just breaking down as she's lost her father, who inspired her. And they're a lot alike. They're both dreamers. There's a really beautiful scene, the last scene with them, which is on Christmas, where he goes into her bedroom and she's talking about her dreams and her want to be a writer and her future, and she's looking forward, and now he's looking back thinking his dreams didn't come true at all. And he feels as though he's failed, and he has to sort of look at that. And she's not really aware of his feelings, even though she has an inkling, because she knows he has this drinking problem. He's an alcoholic. That pain comes from the fact that he has not succeeded. But with that being said, there's a similar message in the film, because he really is always in a good mood. He's always chipper. He's always singing. And he's able to it's spiritual. Like, he could just find happiness in looking at his wife's face, or looking at his kids, and being alive. And he's always looking on the bright side of things. Even though he has pain, he's able to find happiness day in and day out. And that's a lesson for all of us. Just be, the only moment you have is now. And his wife she just couldn't get there. As she just was finding it too difficult to find any joy because of how much they were struggling. But that really is the message is after he dies, Katie can't understand everyone in the community loved this guy. They show up at the funeral. He was always talking about how much he loved his family, and then she starts to realize, oh my God, he was an amazing person, and I kind of forgot because of the fact that we were struggling so much. And you can understand her resentments. You're totally empathetic and compassionate, but she forgot to again at least look at that they have something, that they have some good things, even though things, yes, of course, needed to improve. But the fact that those things are all at Christmas, they hit so hard. In my view, and it's just the way it's, Kazan did a wonderful job. It's a shame because he doesn't really think, if you look at his book, Elia Kazan on directing, there's only a couple of pages on this film, and he didn't think highly of it. He thought it was too sentimental. He thought Dorothy McGuire was great in it, but he thought she's not convincing as a working class woman. Well, he's right about that. And he felt that, doing it on sets at 20th Century Fox, it just lost the reality of, like, the fact that they're living in harsh conditions. And I think there's truth to that, and he would have much preferred being on location, which, of course, he did in so many of his films later. But I still think, despite that, I think it's a perfect film and a great film for us all to see every single year at Christmas. And lastly, on a little more of an upside, this maybe people watch more on New Year's, but The Apartment from 1960, Billy Wilder directed, and he co-wrote it with I.A.L. Diamond. It starred Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and Fred MacMurray. A Manhattan insurance clerk tries to rise in his company by letting its executives use his apartment for trysts, but office politics and his own romantic hopes complicate matters. And this was, if I didn't mention, this was released in 1960. I think it takes place in the holidays, and there is a great, a portion that's Christmas, but I think because the ending is so iconic of the two of them getting together, Lemon's character and Shirley MacLaine's character is, it's all on New Year's, and I think that's what people probably remember the best. But Joseph McBride, who wrote a fantastic book, which I interviewed him about. I'll leave the link in the description if anyone's interested, on Billy Wilder. He knew Wilder, and he asked Wilder, what's the best film you think you did? And he said The Apartment, because it had the best blend, the humor and drama, the blend of those two things worked the best in that film. And I'd have to agree, and that was always his goal in every film. And he made many masterpieces, and sometimes they may be heavier than others, and the blend maybe doesn't work as well with humor and drama as they do in other films, but this one, it's perfect. But, of course, on Christmas, we see Fran, who Shirley MacLaine plays, and she's with Sheldrick, who Fred MacMurray plays, and he gives her $100 as a Christmas gift because he has a family and he can't see her over the holidays, and he didn't even think to buy her a gift. And this poor woman, she's had she hasn't had much luck in her life with men, and she's so in love with him that she and again, because it's that thing that hits harder because it's Christmas and she's alone and he's with his wife, and she tries to commit suicide, right? And it's, for a film that's so funny to suddenly, switch tones like that, it works, so well. And of course, that she tries to commit suicide at Baxter's place because Sheldrick is using Baxter's place to have his affair, which as so many people in the office are, which is part of the humor. But again, just the fact that is a Christmas happens at Christmas makes total sense, because maybe if it was summer or Easter or whatever and he couldn't see her for a couple of weeks, she might not have done it. But it's Christmas, it just adds that other layer of depression. But of course, if you're also looking for something at New Year's to watch, this has the most iconic scene at the end with the two of them getting together. He's so in love with Fran, and she's only really discovered it towards the end, and she starts to realize that she actually has feelings for him, and as she follows him to his apartment, and that great scene on the couch, it's amazing. It's amazing. But what I love so much about the film is that their connection is also because they have these deep insecurities. Baxter is trying to work his way up in this corporate world that he's in, and the only way he thinks he can do it is by letting people use his apartment to have all these affairs, and obviously he doesn't think highly of himself, and he's lonely, and that he can climb the ladder on his own, and so he lets these people walk all over him, and he gets all the way up to the top, working right beside Sheldrick, but look at how he does it. And as the great line is, you got to be a mensch, which just means a human being, which his neighbor, his doctor tells him, that's what you have to try to achieve, which he does, because he walks out on the job, as we know, and he tells Fran. I mean, and Fran is similar because she lets Kubelik walk all over. Sorry, she lets Sheldrick walk all over her, and men walk all over her. So they have this connection, and they can relate to one another. So I love it. I mean, I watch it every year. It's such a good film. So those are 4 Christmas movies. Call them melancholy Christmas movies or what have you. But those are 4 of my favorites that you can watch this holiday season. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. Comment below if you've seen any of these films. Let me know what you think of them. Or after watching this, I know I did so many spoilers. I'm terrible. I mean, I cannot even just give a suggestion without really going to a lot of these moments. So forgive me. If I've given away too many spoilers, but if you haven't seen them and you go away and see them, come back and let me know what you think of the films. Thank you so much again, everyone, for watching. I want to thank all of my members on Patreon. If you're interested in becoming a member of my Patreon, head over to the link, patreon.com/Robert Bellissimo at the movies for full details. You can also leave a donation, or what I like to call a tip, to my YouTube channel, which I would greatly appreciate, by clicking the thanks link, which you will find directly below the video frame here. Just click on that, and you can leave a donation or tip directly to my YouTube channel if you choose to. And lastly, if this is your first time here, please consider subscribing. It is absolutely free to do so. By clicking the Robert Bellissimo at the Movies logo, you will see it floating above my head in the top left corner to your top left. In just a second, just click on that, and then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release one of my new videos. You can also share the video and click the like button. That helps a lot. It attracts a lot of traction over to my channel. So comment, click like, and I will see you all in the next one.